to discuss about ideas, various political thinkers such as Mahatma Gandhi, Abul Kalam Azad, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, Muhammad Iqbal in this lecture. First, we will discuss on Mahatma Gandhi. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi is called as Mahatma. The father of Indian nation was born on 2nd October 1869 at Porbandar in Gujarat in a conservative Hindu family. After the completion of his studies in law in England, he went to South Africa to attend legal matters of his client. The South African experience had a moral dimension to his thinking. In South Africa, he was involved in a struggle against the racist white minority government to uphold the human rights and the dignity of the non-whites. In the course of his struggle in Africa from 1893 to 1914, he evolved the technique of satyagraha for resisting injustice. After his return from South Africa in 1915, he undertook the tour of the country on the advice of his political guru, Gopalakrishna Gokhale. In this tour, Gandhi got first-hand understanding of the people of India and their problems. It made him closer to Indian reality. Okay, we will move on some political thoughts of Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi was a man of action, a realist and humanist. He had faith in the essential goodness of man. His actions and experience characterized the political philosophy of Gandhi. His method was essentially experimental and scientific. He did not write a treatise on political philosophy. However, his views found expression in his autobiography and his article in Young India and Harijan and in his speeches. The significant aspect of political philosophy of Mahatma Gandhi are as spiritualizations of politics about ends and means, critique of modern civilization, and third one Swaraj, fourth one Satyagraha, fifth one concept of Sarvodaya or non-violent socialism, and sixth one decentralizations of political power and village panchayat, seventh one decentralization in economic field, and eighth one state and government, and ninth one role of ethics in politics, and 10th one role of education, and the last one true civilizations, and we will see one by one. Now we will discuss some socio-economic and political ideas of Gandhi's perceptions truth. Is one among them, the word satya, the truth, is derived from sat, which means being. The truth is the most cardinal principles of Gandhism. Mahatma Gandhi was a worshipper of truth. He believed that there is no good higher than truth. Truth is God and God is truth. Gandhi aspect the fundamentality or primacy of the concept truth over non-violence, satyagraha, God, etc. In his political activism to establish justice, he innovates non-violence, satyagraha, trusteeship, the important moral ideas. Among all the moral ideas, he takes truth as sovereign. He writes, "For me, truth is a sovereign principle which includes numerous other principles. This truth is not only truthfulness in word, but truthfulness is thought also, and not only the relative truth of our consumptions, but the absolute truth, the eternal principles, that is God." The next idea relating to Gandhi is non-violence. The non-violence is in the English translations of the word ahimsa. Ahimsa is the central concept of Gandhian ideas Ahimsa means non-injury, non-harm, or inoffensiveness. Ahimsa requires the follower to respect all life. A seeker of truth always follows the path of non-violence. And non-violence means not to harm any person, not even to one's opponent in any way. A follower of non-violence does not torture others through his words, action, and needs. He tried to change the heart of others by bearing suffering for himself. Gandhi's ultimate aim of non-violence is even to love the so-called enemies. To him, non-violence is the law of our speeches, as violence is the law of brute. The Gandhi's technique of non-violence was aimed at promoting social changes. To Gandhi, non-violence is the soul force or truth-seeking force. The next we will move on types of non-violence. The types of non-violence. The first one is non-violence of brave. It is the best form of non-violence. Here, non-violence is not adopted under compulsions. The basis of non-violence of the brave is morality and inner strength. Only a brave person can practice non-violence. This type of non-violence can achieve very good results. And the second type of non-violence is non-violence based on expediency. It is the non-violence of the weak. It is used as a matter of expediency or utility. It is the result of weakness and helplessness and not of moral conviction. It is used for the fulfillment of self-interest. And this is of non-violence can lead to a limited success only. And the third type of non-violence is non-violence on the covert. The non-violence on the covert is the worst form of non-violence. Cowardice and non-violence can never really go together. A coward does not face danger, he runs away from it. Gandhism favors non-violence of the brave. It always advocates the use of non-violence for securing the objective dictated by truth. The another political idea of Gandhi is socialism. Socialism is an economic system of society. It includes the social ownership of the means of production and cooperative management of society. According to Gandhi, it does not refer to nationalization of the means of production, distribution, exchange, but faith in God, truth, non-violence, and equality. So, in simple terms, Gandhian socialism is based on the idea of non-possession and trusteeship. The Gandhian socialism was humanitarian in nature. It cared for the poor and it was a moral code of personal conduct than an economic ideology. It did not envisage the expropriations of the rich through violence or state actions. Mahatma Gandhi wrote, the basis of socialism is economic equality. There can be no Ramarajyan, the present state, inequalities in which a few roll in rich and masses do not get even enough to eat. And Mahatma Gandhi remarked, the socialism is a beautiful word and so far as I am aware in socialism, all the members of society are equal, now low and high. The next political idea of Gandhi relating to Gandhi of state. The Gandhi describes as a soulless mission. The state represents violence in a concentrated and organized form. According to Gandhi, the individual has a soul, but the state is a soulless mission. The state can never be away from violence to which it owes its existence. It can never be being away from violence because its basis has been force. In the words of Gandhiji, the state is not an in itself, but a means of enabling people to better their conditions in every department of life. Further, the state is not infallible and omnipotent. The people can oppose the unjust laws and policies of the state. Gandhiji wanted to limit the functions of state. The Gandhian theory of the state is based not only on the principles of freedom, non-violence, morality, justice and truth, but also on decentralization. Gandhi described his ideal state as if rational life become as perfect as to become self-regulated, no representations becomes necessary. There is then a state of enlightened anarchy. In such a state, everyone is his own ruler. He rules himself in such a manner that he is never hindrance to his neighbor. And in the ideal state, therefore, there is no political power because there is no state. But the ideal is never fully realized in life. The next social and political ideas of Gandhi is Ramarajya or Gandhian ideal society. Ramaraj is an ideal social order based on equality, liberty, and non-violence. It is sometimes described as Purna Swarajyam, Dharma Rajyam. Sometimes Swarajyam, the Ramaraj is a moral political organization, and it resembles Plato's ideal state and Rousseau's moral republic persons. Gandhi also wanted to build up the foundations of his Ramraj on the universal principles, including justice. An important aspect of Gandhi's Ramraj is he has combined policies with ethics and morality. He was firmly convicted that only amalgamations of politics with religion and morality would provide a perfect social order. Gandhiji's ideal was a stateless democratic society. This society was to be federations of self-contained and self-regulated village communities. It was to work on the basic of people's voluntary and peaceful cooperation. Every village was to be a small republic, having a panchayat with full power. Gandhi's ideal state was a non-violent state of enlightened anarchy where social life would remain self-regulated. In that state, there is no ruler, no subject, no government, or no governed. It is a perfect state consisting of enlightened persons, self-regulated and self-controlled following the principles of non-violence. The next political ideas of Gandhi relating to Gandhian perception on democracy. Mahatma Gandhi was an ardent believer in the theory of democracy. His belief was based on his own conceptions of democracy, which was quite different from classical concepts of democracy of the West. Gandhi believed that the democracy, which served the welfare of all, would be marked by minimum state intervention in social life. The central point of his concept of democracy was village panchayat system. The panchayat were to be play a special role in the Gandhian society. The member of panchayat were to be directly elected by the people. The right to vote was to be given only to those persons who were performing one or the other type of physical labor. Panchayat were to have sufficient power to run the administrative of village. Above village panchayat, there were to be a district level panchayat. Those members were to be elected indirectly by the members of the village panchayat. And each district panchayat was to be managed the district administration. Above the district administration, there was to be the provincial government whose members were to be elected by the district panchayat. Above the provincial government, there was to be a central government, the member of the central parliament, and the supreme executive were to be elected indirectly by all provincial assemblies. The next political ideas of Gandhi relating to decentralization. The concept of decentralization occupies paramount importance in Gandhian schemes of rebuilding India from below upwards. Non-violence was understood to be the basic tenets of Gandhiji's concept of decentralization. Gandhiji's concept of decentralization was not an isolated concept, but the outcome of his religious, ethical, socio-political, and economic concepts and ideas. Village Swaraj was an essential component of the decentralized policy or decentralized governance. Swaraj is the best form of governance. Every village is a self-sufficient republic or panchayat. The government of village will be panchayat of five personal persons annually elected by the adult village, both male and female. It is considered as the unit of local government and it is the original custodian of all authority. The panchayat system as viewed by Gandhi represents a village community. It is an autonomous Indian political institution as far as internal village administration concerned. And Gandhi has evolved a three-tier system of Panchayat Raj, linking up village panchayat with the block and district levels. The Panchayat Raj system envisaged by Gandhiji, people's independence being from the village level. The individual has complete freedom to manage his own affairs. The next social and political ideas of Gandhi is Gandhian trusteeship theory. The trusteeship was Gandhiji's peculiar contributions to the technique of social change. The concept of trusteeship flow from the ideal of an ahimsa. Gandhi offered trusteeship as an alternative. He called it the technique of change of heart. The trusteeship provides a means of transforming the present capitalist order of society into an egalitarian one. It gives no quarter to capitalism, but gives the present owing class a chance of reforming itself. It is based on the faith that human nature is never beyond redemption. It provides a means by which the wealthy people would be the trustees of trusts that look after the welfare of the people in general. Trusteeship aimed at reforming the capitalist society. It advocated that rich people should change themselves and should come forward to use their property for the betterment of society. The next important social and political ideas of Gandhi is Gandhian theory of Satyagraha. The concept of Satyagraha and its practice in socio-political front constitute the essence of Gandhi's philosophy. Satyagraha is a term comprising two words, Satya or truth and Grah or insistence. Satyagraha is a relentless search for truth and a determination to teach truth through non-violent means. It literally means holding on to truth. Gandhiji sometimes also referred to it as truth force or soul force. Satyagraha is unique in its consumption as opposed to other resistance movements which strive to prove wrong or to defeat the opponent. On the political front, the Satyagraha involves utilizations of non-violent measures to curb the opponent and ideally to convert him rather than to coerce him into submissions. We will move on some techniques of Satyagraha. The first one, non-cooperation. The second one, civil obedience, disobedience. Third one, hijrat. And fourth one, fasting. And fifth one, boycott. And sixth one, strike. The first, we move on, non-cooperations. Non-cooperations mainly means the withdrawal of cooperations from the party. The purpose behind non-cooperation is not to extend any cooperations to an unjust authority. All social relations rest on the cooperations of the parties involved. If the party which is exploited or suppressed withdraws its support to the relationship between the two will collapse. The next one, civil disobedience. Civil disobedience is another practical method of Satyagraha. It means the breach of the unjust laws or the statutory enactment of the government. Civil resistance or disobedience includes peaceful demonstrations, public meetings, rallies, publishing views. And third one, hijrat. Hijrat is an Urdu word which literally means to migrate. It is a protest against the oppressor. Gandhi suggested these measures to the Harijans mainly due to their oppressions, especially by the dominant classes in some places. And the next one, fasting. Fasting. This was another strong weapon suggested by Gandhi in his non-violent struggle for freedom. Fasting is considered as a most effective weapon of satyagraha to bring a change in the opponent. In the Gandhi scheme of things, it is the purest form of self-inflicted suffering. But great caution is to be maintained in resorting to it. And the next one, boycott. Boycott Gandhiji at another tactic came in the form of boycotting goods. This method was very useful in pursuing the authority. Boycotting involves persons, goods, cloth, titles, persons. In the non-cooperations, the civil disobedience, both the movement boycott British goods and many of the institutions that were the British. The next one, strike. It is mainly an instrument that the worker usage against the employer. We will move on some principles or ideas of satyagraha. No, non-violence, that means ahimsa. Truth includes honesty, but goes beyond it to means living fully in accord with and in devotions to that which is true. Non-stealing. Non-stealing, brahmacharya, includes sexual chastity, but also the subordinations of other sensual desires to the primary devotions to truth. And non-possession. Non-possession, not the same as poverty. Body labor or bread labor. The control of the palate, fearlessness, equal respect for all the religions, economic strategies such as boycotts and Swadharma. The another political ideas of Gandhi is Gandhian Swaraj. Gandhi holds that self-rule or Swaraj was nothing but self-determinations of the individual while taking decisions without depending upon others. Gandhi used this term Swaraj with a definite meaning and significance. By real Swaraj, Gandhi means the welfare and happiness of the masses. He wrote Swaraj as a scared word, a Vedic word, the meaning self-rule and self-restraint, and not freedom from all restraints which independence often means. It is a fact that his Swaraj is mean for self-government. And the next political idea of Gandhi is Sarvodaya. The two terms Sarvodaya are Sarva, that means all, and Uday, arising, that means rising. The literal translations of Sarvodaya would then be the rising of all. The principles of this Sarvodaya. There is no centralized authority and there is a political and economic atmosphere in the village. All people will be imbued with the spirit of love, fraternity, truth, non-violence, and self-sacrifice. The Sarvodaya society is socialist in the true sense of them. All calling will be the same moral, social, and economic values. The individual personality has the fullest scope for development. The Sarvodaya society is based on equality and liberty. The development of each quality depends upon every other. If all the qualities or improved a little, then the individual would again more. Next, we will move on conclusion. To conclude, Gandhi philosophy is not only simultaneously political, moral, and religious. It is also traditional and modern, simple and complex. Gandhi is universally known as the most renowned theorist, philosopher, and also the practitioner of truth, love, non-violence, tolerance, freedom, and peace. He was a leader of his people, unsupported by any authority. The next thinkers we are going to discuss about Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. First, we will go on history of Abul Kalam Azad. Abul Kalam Azad was born on November 11, 1888 in Mecca. His mother was the daughter of a rich Arabian sheikh and his father, Maulana Khairuddin, was a Bengali Muslim of Afghan origin. Maulana Azad was well versed in many languages, that is, Arabic, English, Urdu, Hindi, Persian, and Bengali. Maulana Azad was a brilliant debater, as indicated by his name Abul Kalam, which literally means Lord of Dialogue. In fact, in the field of journalism, he was publishing a poetical journal, Nairangi Alam, and was already an editor of a weekly Al Mishbah in 1900. In 1903, brought out a monthly journal, Listener's Sib. Next, we will move on political life on Abul Kalam Azad. Azad met two leading revolutionaries of Bengal, Aurobindo Ghosh and Sri Shyam Sundar Chakravarti, and joined the revolutionary movement against British. In 1912, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad started a weekly journal in Urdu called Ali Hilal to increase the revolutionary recruits among the people. Maulana Azad supported non-cooperation movement started by Gandhiji and entered Indian National Congress in 1920. He presided over the special session of Congress in September 1923 and was said to be youngest man elected as the president of the Congress. Maulana Azad became the president of Congress in 1940 and remained in the post till 1946. The next move on some romantic pace of his ideas. Asad's opinion that an understanding of Quran would help in political, socio and cultural reconstruction of life. He expected his political views in Al-Hilal, which covered romantic pace of his ideas. He expressed profound belief in the sovereignty of God, establishments of the divine kingdom, order and good government, and in the supremacy of truth. He analyzed Indian politics in terms of religion. To him, the believers are friends of God, and non-believer are friends or devil. The friends of God are already to die for the truth. They are not afraid of anything in this or next birth. The friends of devil take recourse to force and do not love truth. The next view, the next view on his nationalism. According to Azad, Indian nationalism was neither Hindu nor Islamic. This was secular and was a synthesis of Hindu and Muslim cultures. He became an advocate of Islam in liberal and Islamic sense. We no longer remain hostile to the Western civilization. He said that religion and reason were not opposed to each other. Azad believed a unity between Hindus and Muslims would bring nationalism in India. He was opposed to the partitions of India on religious grounds. And next, we will move on democracy. In the first phase, he did not regard democracy as a way of life. He considered only Islam as a true and perfect religion. In the post-romantic phase, his views were no more confined to the influence of Islam. They spread under the influence of West. He expressed belief in the sovereignty of the people. He said that country belonged to the people. All people enjoy equal rights. The head of the state or caliph should be elected by the people. The head of the state should not claim special privilege in relation to the people. The head of the state should consult people having insight in all administrative and legal matters. The treasury of the country should be considered as the property and possession of the people. He made a play for establishments of parliamentary form of government in India. He said, national government must be a cabinet government. The next political thinker is Muhammad Iqbal. The Muhammad Iqbal attempt to provide a systematic basis for the political ideas of Indian Muslims. He provided a critique of political ideas of liberal democracy in relation to the Islamic political ideas. For understanding his political ideas, it is necessary to understand his views on Islam and ego. According to Iqbal, the ideal society on earth will be established by the Muslim chosen people of God, the deputies of God in the East. The Muslim is not extraordinary person, but a common man and an embodiment of good and possesses the qualities of justice and benevolence. Iqbal believed that only by self-affirmations, self-expressions, and self-development can the Muslim become more strong and free. These are the three stages through which the uniqueness of ego can be achieved. Iqbal believed that those Muslims who are guided by the Quran or the Book of Wisdom will fulfill this mission. And next, we will move on the view on nationalism. In Iqbal's opinion, rationalism provides a psychological and political justification for the nation state. The capitalist system was responsible for its emergence. It is based on the considerations of territory. Nationalism merely attached an individual to a territory. Patriotism, according to the Iqbal, is different from nationalism. Patriotism is a preferably nature virtue and has a place in moral life of a man. But nationalism, according to Iqbal, is a political concept and is not in consonance with the spirit of Islam. He believed that if nationalism was accepted in its ideal form, Islam would no more remain a living factor. Nationalism comes into conflict with Islam when it begins to play the role of political concept, demanding that Islam should recede to the background of a more private opinion and cease to be a living factor in the national life. The another view on his Islamic democracy. He condemned the Western concept of democracy and urged an acceptance of Islamic democracy. Islamic democracy did not grow out of the extension's economic opportunity. It is based on the assumptions that every human being is a center of latent power which can be developed by cultivating a certain type of character. In Islamic democracy, emphasis is more on moral consideration. Equal democracy does not belong to the people but to unique individuals. He was convicted that Islam democracy would not degenerate into autocracy. The basis of Islamic democracy is shifted from the economic exploitation to better spiritual purification and better economic adjustment. Iqbal thought that a government based on the concept of one God would be more suitable than democracy of the Western type. The cardinal principles of Islamic democracy would be the principles of unity of God, obedience to law, tolerance, and universalism. Iqbal appreciated the adoptions of democratic institutions in the Western countries, but the desires that they be in conformity with the basic principles of Islam. The next view on individual. An individual is responsible from the society. His trust self-achieve fulfillment in the society. The highest aim of the individual is to achieve union with society. He owes his body and spirit to the society. The society of individual and community is a supreme entity. The Islamic community is not governed through human law, but by the divine laws propounded by Quran. Its words are secret and eternal. If an individual goes against the communal interest, he will have no freedom. According to Iqbal, obedience is the highest virtue of an individual. Iqbal does not exhaustively deal with rights. An individual can enjoy those rights which are permitted by the law of Quran. And the next thinkers we are going to discuss about Muhammad Ali Jinnah. Let us see the history of Muhammad Ali Jinnah. He is a politician, lawyer, and Pakistan's first Governor General. He is known as Quaid-i-Azam or Great Leader. He successfully campaigned and led Pakistan's independence from India and became its first leader. Born on December 25, 1876 in Karachi, Pakistan. His father was a prosperous Muslim merchant named Jinnah Punja. He received his early education at the Sindh Madrasa and later at the Mission School, Karachi. In 1916, he became the president of Muslim League. Jinnah also made an agreement between Indian National Congress and Muslim League in December 1916 known as Lucknow Pact. Next, we will see the political ideas of Muhammad Ali Jinnah. Jinnah was initially influenced by British liberalism. He was associated with the leading Indian liberals. He had uncompromising faith in the concept of nationalism, democracy, secularism, and the unity of the country. His liberalism stood for freedom, constitutionalism, absence of any type of fanatism in social and political life, the cooperations with the British government, the constitutional form of agitations for the right cause, the rule of law, and the unity of country. He did not support the extra constitutional method in an agitation. He felt that even the non-cooperation movement was a non-liberal movement. The next, another view on his nationalism. He emphasized the unity between the Hindus and the Muslims. But after the Jinnah was appointed as the permanent president of Muslim League, his views of Hindu-Muslim unity underwent significant changes. He supported the resolutions of the Muslim League, which resolved to work for Swaraj, full religious liberty, and separate electorates. Jinnah made three amendments on March 27, 1927, in a conference chaired by him. Those were separate electorates should remain. The residuary power should be vested in the provinces. The next move on Jinnah's two-nation theory. Jinnah's passion for Hindu-Muslim unity was replaced by his belief in two-nation theory. After he had rejected the Nehru and the Simon Commission's report. For him, Hindu and Muslim no more constituted a unity. Instead, they now came to represent two separate nations. He emphasized that Muslims were a separate party and he spoke the language of bargainer. As a chairman of the federal subcommittee, he said no constitution would work unless it gave a sense of security to the Muslims and other minorities. He strove for the formations of Pakistan, which would supposedly include the following region: Punjab, Kashmir, Sindh, and Balochistan. The Muslim League met on March 4, 1934 in New Delhi for establishing the unity in the party. Jinnah made it a political weapon for the creation of Pakistan, a new state. He successfully gave an ideological and religious thing to the two-nation theory. Jinnah two-nation theory even distorted his earlier concept of liberal democracy. His new concept of democracy was limited to his idea separate homeland for Muslims. He did not deny the spiritual aspect of democracy in Islam. He opposed the applications of the Western type of democracy in India. The majority rule will become tyrannical in India. The Muslims will suffer in economic, social, cultural, and political aspect of life. He said that the joint electoral system would lead to the enslavement and virtual extinctions of the minority community. This aspect of the Aligarh movement, which was rejected by Jinnah earlier, influenced the later phase of his politics and thought. The next thinkers we are going to discuss about Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. First, we will discuss on his history. Born on 17th October 1817, Delhi. Father is Mir Mutahi and mother is Azizul Nisa. He got his primary education from his maternal grandfather, which includes study of Holy Quran, Arabic, and Persian literature. Later, he also acquired excellence in history, mathematics, and medicine, but he didn't complete the medicine course. He had also been introduced to some of Indian most able writers and had developed a love for literature. In 1840, he joined East India Company as a record keeper. He rose to the position of chief assessment official. Another view on his Aligarh movement. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan founded the Aligarh movement. This movement aimed at spreading modern education and creating political consciousness among the Indian Muslims. The first national awakening among the Muslims found expression through this movement. This movement is known as Aligarh movement because it had started at Aligarh. The movement is also known as Aligarh movement because it has started at Aligarh. The movement also aimed at introducing social reforms among Indian Muslims. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan condemned polygamy and social ban on widow remarriage. The Aligarh movement was based on the liberal interpretations of Quran. Next, move on political thought. The political thought of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan can be divided into two phases. The first phase spanned up to 1887 and the second phase started after 1887. During the first phase, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan stood for Hindu-Muslim unity. Expressing the need for Hindu-Muslim unity, he said that for centuries we have been living on the same soil, eating the same fruit on the same land, breathing the air of the same country. In 1873, he declared that religion should not be an obstacle for nationalism. He advocated separations between religious and political matters. Thank you. The next video, we will discuss another topic. If you have any doubt, clarify the Google Classroom comment box. Thank you.